Greetings everyone, I am Dimitrik and welcome to today's episode of Fryderykraft. If we recall from our last episode, if you have watched it, we started work on this building right here, the City Hall of Ericton, where we completely overhauled the exterior of the building, and as you can tell, that is a very large, grand building for a very large, grand project, which means it takes a lot of time, and the last video took way too long to make, so this one will be doing a much smaller scaled project. If we head over this way, you will see that we will arrive in our Georgian square that we built a couple episodes back, and that is what we will be doing today. We will be finishing up the garden in our little square right here. Before we get to any of the building any of the trees and stuff in the square, I would like to do a bit more work in this church right here that we built the episode before we built the gardens, and do the interior, as it is quite a significant building, but it has been lying empty for a very long time. So one thing that I want to talk about is that I think that there will be some differences from now on from how I will be making episodes from now on. If you couldn't tell, there was a very long period of time between episode 8 and episode 9 and 10. Episode 8 came out around December, and episode 9 and 10 came out in April. That is a huge time period. So one major thing is that I think I was taking too large of a project to do per episode. I was trying to finish one thing at once, and didn't really work out because that one thing took a very long time. So what I plan to do is to work on smaller scale stuff from now on. Like for example, in this episode we are just building the garden instead of just doing some huge thing. We might not even build the whole garden. So another thing is that the way I have decided to make my videos, usually I have a specific order that I plan to do things in, and if I don't do one thing, I don't do the next thing. So if one thing takes a long time, it will be until forever to do the next thing. So I think I will be changing that a bit with varying out stuff and not having to restrain myself with having to complete one task before starting another. Another thing that I plan on doing is to possibly show more of the building process. I know that can get a bit boring, so maybe not super in-depth with the building, but a bit more than just straight cutting to it. Maybe I will explain the builds a bit more after they're completed if I didn't go through the main part of the building process. So most of the projects from now on, most of the videos from now on will feature smaller scale projects, but hopefully I will be able to upload more videos more frequently. Another thing that I want to do from now on is to probably be in more areas in this world. Usually I'm only in either this area or the industrial park, and hopefully in future videos I can branch out and go to other areas and do other projects elsewhere. And adding on to the topic of doing less large projects per video, there is something that I can do where I could be putting in more detail or effort or completeness into each project. Not for example, I could be making trees or adding street lamps to the street that I build on and so on. Maybe not interiors for every building, but important buildings I might put interiors on, or I could do interiors to buildings I've built in previous videos. It's just stuff to make the city a bit more complete and maybe add some liveliness to it, such as what I'm doing right here with the building side of the church here. And on the topic of going to different places throughout the server, there are many places that you, the audience, have never seen before, mostly because I don't go over there, so maybe possibly in the future I may do a world tour video so that you can see the corners of the realm that you've never seen before, because they just don't get featured in the videos. There, and I think that looks nice, completing the interior to our small chapel. Have this little rude screen that I tried to put up, and I think it turned out alright. Up there is the entrance to the tower that you can go and get nice views of the city. It really is nice to be able to be at the top of the city, looking over, seeing all the buildings we've built. Not so much all the angles, though. Now that we're done doing the interior to the church, I think it is time for us to go back into the garden and build some trees. So, I have gathered up some coarse dirt for us to be building our little paths that go through the garden. I plan for there to be some sort of circle in the middle that the paths go around. There'll be an entrance right here, an entrance that leads to this street, and an entrance that leads to that one. I suppose we should remove this little plinth or whatever it was from Halloween. There's even a little tomb in here. Hopefully nothing bad happens. I've removed that little monolith, but I left some sort of trace, so if anyone ever decides to dig around in this area, they will find something of archaeological interest. But we will have our paths that go all the way to the end. I think that lines up. It should. And an entrance right here with a little circle in the middle. The central circle has been laid out, as well as the little paths that connect us to the central circle. You may have noticed that these paths look a bit perfect with the straight lines and not much of the this or whatever that you see from most other builds. But that is for a reason. It's because these are not just random paths. These are actual paths that are laid out, so in real life they would actually look like this. Also, we might line the paths with bushes or something to make them a bit more garden-y. So inside this circle there'll be something special, maybe a statue of some sort. But we will have trees in these areas over here, and I plan on having benches on like these straight line areas, because benches are nice to have in parks, and building a bench on a diagonal seems difficult, but it might be fun if I actually am able to do that. So I have gone ahead and gathered some resources for building our garden here. As you can see, I've altered the circle here a little bit, but what I have is some warped mushroom, I think. Warped mushroom to build our benches, because they look a little bit like a greenish blue painted metal. That right there is our little seat. Just get the back like that and add signs on both sides. That is our bench we have. It is a bit tall, but it's fine. I have also got some leaf blocks for us to place around our benches, adding some foliage to the area. We've got some benches in, as well as some bushes. The next thing I would like to do is to change up this fence surrounding the garden a bit. If you've been here for long enough, you'd know that this was originally built as a cemetery for a Halloween decoration. So it was designed like this, but it really doesn't serve that function anymore. So I will probably take out these pillars right here and replace them with the general line with the iron fencing right there. Like that. And now it's a bit more of a proper fence. One thing I'd like to do is to add some bushes around the fence, like you know, those like tall bushes that are very leafy and green around the fence to create some sort of coverage and to make the inside of the garden feel a bit more secluded from the outside. And like that, our bushes have been added, all lovely and green, very happy, adding a nice little bit of enclosure to our gardens. Now, the next thing we'll be doing is building some trees, but not in this area at the moment. Instead, we will be heading down over here to this area that nobody ever goes down to. And if we go down here, you will see why. It is very plain and boring, and you see there are little patches of dirt here. That is where we will be planting some trees on our promenade to make it a bit more green and pleasant, adding some shade, making it a more pleasant experience as you enjoy the water. Now, I haven't built a tree in a very long time. In fact, the last time I've built a Minecraft tree was probably back in 2021, so it may not look that great, but one of the main reasons I wanted to do this episode was to get more practice on building more organic things such as trees. The first step was to build a little tree outline without any of the leaves so that I know how, like the general shape of the tree and how the leaves are going to go onto it. And the size is a pretty small tree. It's not that tall, but nice enough to add a little bit of shade and greenery to the area. And using the branches as guidelines, I have added the leaves onto our trees. See, it looks very nice, and leaving many air gaps so it doesn't look too solid. Add some nice shade to our promenade, and next thing I'll be doing is adding the other two trees there, like that. And now, finally, I'll come down here and add some benches so you can enjoy the water under the shade, the trees. Now, if we take another turn back into the gardens, you can see that we've added a little small fountain here in the middle. It's our little garden centerpiece, and there's been some stones or pebbles that have been scattered about. Now, the trees took a very long time to build, so unfortunately, I won't be building any more in the garden in this episode. Similar to what I was talking about earlier in the video, but we definitely will finish the garden sometime soon. I thank you for watching if you have made it this far, and farewell, my friends.